We're the two teachers. Welcome to Citizen U.
LIVEstyle. Tonight we're reviewing foundations.
Guys, foundations is one of my favorite because here in America, truly, we're not a nation of men, we're a nation of law. And it all started with our foundations, our framers. They put it all in the Constitution. What questions do you have tonight about foundations?
Well, the first one is, what are the founding ideals of American government?
Well, certainly the founding ideals you can look at in the founding documents. The Declaration of Independence written by Thomas Jefferson, the idea that we have a social contract, that it's really up to human beings to pick our government, and that government has to protect our natural rights, including the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And of course, the Constitution starts with we the people. That's the idea of popular sovereignty, the idea that in the end, people have the power in this republic.
Micah, give me liberty or give me death. This is the ideal upon which we stand on each and every day. But George, let's not forget, equality under the law. Liberty and equality fuel this nation, and has for 200 years and hopefully for 200 more.
Well, of course, the Constitution did need to get ratified. What critical historical events led up to the ratification of the Constitution?
Well, certainly the big event is Shays' Rebellion. The idea that we had the Articles of Confederation. It was a document of state sovereignty. The states had most of the power in the Articles of Confederation. The problem was that states were weak. And when there was a rebellion of former war veterans, the governments of the states had a really hard time putting down that rebellion. So James Madison, Alexander Hamilton had this idea of a stronger central government. That was the essence of the new Constitution.
I'll tell you, the event that I like to talk about is a failure. Let's not forget that our first Constitution did not work. The Articles of Confederation created a government in which the state governments were actually stronger than the central. Well, that wasn't going to solve the problems. And so this Articles of Confederation taught us a lesson. It's okay to fail, but let's get it right the second time. Measure once, check that, measure twice, cut once. The Articles of Confederation is a very important lesson to learn because the Constitution addressed some of those issues. And it's the issue we're still kind of debating today. We needed a stronger central government, but how strong?
So, we know that the Constitution did need to be changed. What are some of the formal and informal methods to do such a thing?
Well, the formal amendment process is one of the things that was different from the Articles of Confederation. Remember, that document was almost impossible to change. So with the new Constitution, you have an amendment process. We changed it the first 10 times with the Bill of Rights. We've changed it 27 total times, and we typically use the process that amendments are proposed by 2/3 of each chamber of Congress, and then those amendments are ratified by 3/4 of the states. That's the formal amendment process.
But Mikey, you're dead on here. We've certainly changed the Constitution more than just those 27 times. We just haven't done it formally. Formally is when it's rewritten into the language of the actual document. It's the informal changes that have happened more often. We know, for instance, that the Supreme Court, through its decision-making process, each case they decide changes the meaning of that Constitution. We know the President of the United States, through various foreign policy agreements. We know the President of the United States, through various executive agreements, changes the meaning of that Constitution. And Congress isn't left out of this either. Congress can change the meaning of that Constitution with each and every bill that they pass. And this is, again, what makes the foundation's topic a little confusing. Are we a nation of law, or are we a nation of men who can change it at a whim? This is that delicate balance that we play with each and every day inside Washington, D.C.
And yeah, definitely, every single change is very important to the Constitution, has definitely affected our lives a lot. But I kind of wanted to focus in on the 14th Amendment.
Well, you know, George, if I had to pick a favorite, it'd be the 14th Amendment. The 14th Amendment was like a constitutional convention over. The 14th Amendment has been used time and time and time again. Due Process Clause, Equal Protection Clause. But let's not forget, the 14th Amendment has been used to incorporate the Bill of Rights. Little by little, the Supreme Court has applied the Bill of Rights to the states using the 14th Amendment's Due Process Clause. And Andy, you know this, and boys, you know this well because you've studied. Selective incorporation has shifted that power from the states to the national government, and it challenges that basic foundational question. Yes, we need a stronger central government, but how strong? But the 14th Amendment has been used. It's been used in other ways too, though.
Well, the key, certainly it's been used in other ways with civil rights, with the Equal Protection Clause. And the preeminent case there of Equal Protection Clause is Brown versus the Board of Education, where the Supreme Court in 1954 interpreted the 14th Amendment to say that segregation in public schools was unconstitutional because it violated the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment.
So, how has the civil rights been evolved in American society?
Well, we know that Brown versus the Board of Education actually overturned the landmark precedent from Plessy versus Ferguson, because in 1896, the Supreme Court actually said that you could have separate and equal facilities. We know that Brown versus the Board of Education overturned that in 1954. But also, here's where you get federalism, it took state and local schools time to actually desegregate those public schools. So in some cases, it took 2 decades to desegregate public schools because of the complexities of having local governments follow through with the Supreme Court decision.
Mike, I think what Mr. Kanine is telling us is that you could teach the entire course through the civil rights movements. For years, it was a state issue. Then it became more of a national issue. We saw that early on, the great successes occurred in the courts. Then later on, Congress took this mantle up as the president was enforcing these new laws. The civil rights movement is a great lesson in how our government works. It's a great lesson in foundations.
And not just racial civil rights, also gender rights. And particularly as we go into cases of privacy rights, like Griswold versus Connecticut, or Roe v. Wade, or even into sexual orientation as we get into the issue of gay marriage and gay rights.
Hey guys, have I told you about Federalist 10? You know I love talking about Federalist 10. That document that James Madison wrote to try to convince us that the Constitution should be ratified in the first place. They were worried about one faction taking over the whole country. James Madison said, relax. If you make it a large republic, those factions will clash, will compete, that pluralism. The founding fathers were worried about an elitist system. They didn't want to select few governing, they wanted we the people governing. Federalist 10 reminds us of that. Say, we've been reviewing tonight foundations. We're the 2 teachers. No fancy words,
No fancy suits,
plain talk about issues you need to know.
just in time.